Combines again roll across the plains. After a weather delay for many in central Nebraska, things again kicking into high gear.
We have some, fertilizer trials, some planting population trials.
We'll hear how the university wants your help to do on-farm research and how the university again searches for new leadership and how a couple of local farmers are involved. Plus, sometimes being Nebraska strong means being strong enough to ask for help as we put a spotlight on rural mental health.
It's just been a blessing.
Later, new hope for old crops, what we can learn from the Pawnee, and much more. It's time to grow. After a rain delay, harvest is in full swing. The most recent crop progress report shows 44% of corn has been picked, up from 36% on average at this point, and again rating mostly good to fair. Soybean harvest 70% complete. Winter wheat has been planted, 84% emerged ahead of schedule, rating mostly fair to good. Pasture and range conditions mostly good to fair. It's been said whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting, and again, water issues taking up time in front of the Nebraska Supreme Court. The Nebraska Supreme Court did not rule on the merits of the case, but says a couple of natural resources districts lack standing to bring the suit over transfer water from the Platte River Basin to the Republican Basin. And essentially that puts the decision in the hands of the Nebraska Department of Natural Resources. The Tri-Basin NRD in Holdridge is pleased with the ruling. Tri-Basin says the project is only intended to divert water that no user in the Platte Basin can use, water that would otherwise flow out of Nebraska. Tri-Basin and the Lower Republican launched the project in 2017. The idea is to divert water from the Platte in times of high flow and then run that water through a canal system to a tributary of the Republican. However, water users and environmental interests downstream of the project along the Platte say the project should be rejected. Audubon, Nebraska's stream flow has decreased to an estimated 70% of historic levels. In addition, this is one of the most irrigated acres in the nation that economically depends on irrigated agriculture. These groups call this a step backwards and say in the larger context, with the Perkins County Canal project and future litigation, passing this water on to Kansas doesn't make sense. However, the Lower Republican NRD says it looks forward to making its application to DNR and keeping the state in compliance with the compacts with Kansas and Colorado. It's been called a silent epidemic, rural mental health. Now a local rural clinic taking an innovative approach, integrating mental and physical health in one clinic.
You gonna figure out what's wrong with that?
Diagnosing a breakdown in the field during harvest.
If you need me to run parts, let me know.
A helping hand.
Okay, I love you.
But what happens when it's not the equipment, but the mind? Dr. Ryan Santon grew up on this family farm and now returns as a mental health provider at his hometown hospital, called a unicorn by the staff at Merrick Medical Center. The Bryan Health Facility says it's one of the few rural clinics in the nation with this level of mental health care.
I think they may be on the cutting edge of this because it's been working very, very well.
Santon is an MD who became a psychiatrist, helping patients manage mental illness through medication.
Depression, bipolar disorder, trauma.
The other piece is
patients come to the same waiting room where they'd get their blood pressure checked.
We've embedded me in the rural health clinic so that we can help people's whole body, their brain, their mind, and their body in a kind of innovative and new way.
He gets it. I mean, his family, his dad's a farmer, his mom. He's just going to be able to connect in ways that maybe not other professionals at his level will be able to.
Mental health advocate Annette Dumas lives on a farm nearby where she reflects on how a friend describes the lifestyle.
She said, the thing I love most about my dad is his independence and, the way he can just handle things and make things happen. And the thing that frustrates me the most about my dad is his independence and thinking that he can handle everything.
Dr. Santon says at its best, that rural work ethic can lead people to do well with treatment, but too often it results in folks who suffer silently.
Farmers are at very high risk of depression, anxiety, lots of mental health concerns.
While other doctors save lives, Santon says his role,
give them back their life.
And we visited more with some of the specific concerns for agricultural producers.
Farming can be a very high-risk occupation for mental health concerns because of the volatility of the markets, of the weather. There's a lot of things outside people's control they have to deal with. Not only that, it's very taxing on people's physical health. There's all sorts of variables that can impact depression, but waking up in the middle of the night to check cows can affect your sleep patterns. You can have anxiety about the weather. A lot of times people turn to other things that are less than healthy to try to manage that, eating or other substances that directly impact their mental health. So farming and the agriculture industry can be a pretty high-risk occupation, not to mention some of the chemicals we use can have impacts to people's mental health as well. So there's lots of variables that can impact a person's occupation and their mental health.
Visiting now with Taylor Bauman, the program coordinator for On-Farm Research. Nebraska Extension does a lot of work on the farm with actual producers, right?
Yes, we do.
I mean, give me just an idea of, there's a multitude of probably different things that happen all across the state, aren't there?
Yes, we have a large variety of trials that we do all across the state on farmers' operations. And the farmers are the ones who get to choose the topics, so whatever they're interested in. We have some, fertilizer trials, some planting population trials, just kind of a broad range.
How much these days has to do with digital technology and that kind of thing?
Definitely more and more. This year in the past couple years, we have some fertigation trials, which is, all about ag technology. And we use drones in a lot of our studies and all sorts of different technologies.
A lot of it, I'm sure, is about water, nitrogen, trying to see what can we do to control those inputs efficiently.
Yeah. A lot of them, our goal is to kind of focus on nitrogen use efficiency and increasing our nitrogen usage. Decreasing.
Right.
Are using satellite imagery to take images of those studies, and we track them throughout the growing season. And we have soil moisture sensors out there. We're using different technologies like that.
There's a lot of technology out there. It's a little overwhelming, but the more you can actually work with producers and see what's working, does that then help you then disseminate that information through the extension folks to, to help producers do things better?
Yes, I think it does. All of our results are available publicly. We actually have results meetings every spring in February and March. And farmers really appreciate getting that information from farmers themselves. So they're using these technologies on their farms, and other farmers are able to see those results and disseminate them themselves.
If you got a producer out there who's like, I'd like to try something new. I'm the kind of guy who is willing to try something. Do you always need more of those kind of people who are willing to help you out?
Oh yes, if you are interested or know anyone who would be interested, please reach out to us, and we will gladly help you set up an on-farm research trial.
For the third time in a decade, the search is on to find new leadership for the University of Nebraska. And we talked to a pair of local farmers as they hope this pick is the last one they have to make for a long time. From the football field to the farm field, the University of Nebraska impacts the state in countless ways. NU President Ted Carter leaves with an impressive list of accomplishments in 3 years. But now the search is on for his successor.
Probably want to identify someone with a love for the state of Nebraska and the Midwest.
Hopefully you probably won't have to do this for a while. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. We want to have someone that stays here at least 5, 6 years, 10 years. So
Regent Paul Kenny says a current budget shortfall is a challenge, but Nebraska doesn't have the problems some schools do.
We're in great financial shape, and a lot of the schools in the Big Ten are not.
Cutting-edge agricultural research and hands-on education are key for Gothenburg farmer Scott McFeeters.
More of a rural voice maybe, or maybe even an agricultural voice.
He's one of about 24 on the search committee, with an interest that extends to the smallest campus in Curtis.
Of course, there's unique training there.
Paul Kenny also comes from an ag background. He says the profile of what they're looking for hasn't changed since they did this just 3 years ago. And now the third presidential search in 10 years. Kenny says there may be short-term challenges, but he says the university is doing innovative work.
If you really dig into it, it is a great job.
Later, we highlight some FFA members getting real-world experience. And up next, what we can learn from the Pawnee.
This portion of NTV's Grow is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
New hope for old crops. Here's more from NTV's Good Life.
Next to me is Deb Eckehoff. She is the keeper of the seeds at the Pawnee Seed Preservation Society, along with Ronnie O'Brien. She is with the Pawnee Seed Preservation Society. They both have done such incredible work. Ladies, thank you for joining me. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, when we talk about the seeds, the Pawnee seeds, there's so much, Deb, that is part of the history. Tell us what is the most important part about preserving the corn seeds for the Pawnee, if you could get that in a nutshell.
Right. Every day I feel like I'm just doing something for our ancestors. You know, because they're the ones that were the experts on the growing and the storing and you know, keeping it all straight. And so at this point, without their knowledge, you know, we're having to learn directly from the corn, and it's been a beautiful process. And we started growing the corn back in the late 80s, 90s.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Ronnie and I started working 20 years ago. You know, I started a little bit earlier, but it's just been a blessing, period, just to get it back. Wow. Because we didn't have all of our varieties, and we had such a transition that we almost lost our corn.
Yeah, and just because of the traveling, when the Pawnee were moved to Oklahoma, they took the seeds. You took the seeds with you, and they were kept in jars, but the soil in Oklahoma, you couldn't grow the corn. And, you know, Ronnie, I think you stepped in and said, you know, let's start this here and grow it in its homeland here in Nebraska, right?
Well, yes. Well, my first conversation with Deb took about an hour, and I was just really looking for seeds to start a garden. But I had no idea the situation that they were in. And by the time we were done with the conversation, it was Deb that said, if our culture committee will agree to it, would you be willing to try to grow our seeds back in their homeland, in their home soil and climate? And I said, sure, you know, so just that one conversation. Let me tell you, I grew up on a corn farm, and I thought I really knew a lot about corn, and I really had a strong connection to farming, into the land, into the corn. I had no idea how strong of a connection you can have.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, I'm a whole different person, you know. And I'm not trying to offend any farmers. I grew up on a farm.
Right.
We don't eat corn 365 days a year. We don't have 7-day ceremonies about corn around the clock. We don't have songs. We don't have 300 songs in our culture about corn. That's a whole different level of a connection to, in a spiritual connection.
Our Grow Weather Outlook is next.
NTV's Grow Weather is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
Welcome back here as we take a look at the drought monitor across the Central Plains, and well, yeah, things continue to be extremely dry, targeting especially kind of south central Kansas, central Nebraska, and then the eastern part of Iowa, really seeing those drought conditions continuing to linger on. We have extreme and exceptional drought in south central, southeastern Kansas. As far as the viewing area that we cover there in northern Kansas, you do continue to see at least levels of severe and even some extreme drought there in the southern part of Smith County and even Jewell County there. Here looking at Nebraska, again, it is right here in the central part of the state that we continue to struggle. Out west, we have made some really good strides from where we started the year, but not the case here. Really about Highway 281 eastward, we continue to see extreme and a large part of exceptional drought. And we are tracking some chances of moisture coming in down the road, but it's going to take a lot to get out of that. And you look at the October temperature outlook, still going to run on the warm side of things. We've had quite a few above average days here through the month and really favoring continue to be on the warm side of things. As far as the precip outlooks, you have to remember, October is typically a pretty dry month for us, so to be above average with your rain chances really doesn't take much. We do have a few chances moving in as we get towards next week. You look at what to expect as we go through the rest of fall into winter, anticipating a 50-50 shot of temps, being at or above or even below normal. Yeah, not a lot of good signals to go either way as we go through that time frame. And often this is the case when you have that kind of even chance of being normal temps. Precip typically follows there as well. So your Grow Almanac, normal high for the upcoming week, around 61 degrees, and the normal lows around 37. Now we're going to average around 59 for the high as we go through the next week, with the low dropping down to around 41 again on average. So that's what we're expecting, and here's what we are forecasting. Now we actually start off incredibly warm at 75 Monday, 65 Tuesday. That's when we see some showers and thunderstorms possibly moving in, especially late in the day. I think that's actually going to favor the eastern half of the state. 63 Wednesday, then comes what appears to be a much more significant push of colder air. We could be talking temps only in the 40s by Thursday and Friday. And we'll also be tracking at least a chance of some moisture moving in by the end of the week. So we get a little bit of everything with the upcoming week. We start off extremely warm, and then we end up actually running a little bit below average with those temps. We will finish your grow weather off tonight with a little proverb for you. A warm October leads to a cold February. Well, if that ends up being true, October's been relatively warm, so February could end up quite chilly. We'll just have to wait and see. That's a look at your grow weather for this week. We'll be coming right back.
When we come back, we visit a school with some unique ag programs giving kids real-world experience.
Ag Youth of the Month is sponsored by Landmark Implement. Experience the Landmark difference with locations across Nebraska and northern Kansas.
Students at one area school trade textbooks for feed buckets as each school day begins with a field trip to their very own field. High Plains Storm FFA members harvested their 14 irrigated corn variety trial in partnership with a local farmer. Advisor Tom Hoffman says a successful ag education program depends on community support, and students from Hordeville, Clarks, and Polk are getting that true production experience, something we learned when we visited their animal science class back in the spring.
You may think we're out here on the farm, but in reality, school's in session.
A first period class where kids might think they've taken a wrong turn.
Are we in the right place?
Students are outnumbered by these kids. Goats raised just steps from school.
Whose farm is this? Why are we trespassing on someone's land?
Kylie Farley is a city kid from the Denver suburbs. Not only is she not lost, she's found an appreciation for the farm life her classmates like Espy Layshock have grown up with.
We have the horse, cow, goat, and 2 heifer bottled calves.
Sure, they've got a science lab, but High Plains High School also offers this animal lab, something their ag instructor calls a dream come true.
If you're trying to figure out your ideal, what an ag program should look like, I think I I kind of hit the jackpot with this one.
Students say every day brings its own challenges as teacher Tom Hoffman turns those into learning experiences.
If there's a problem, us students have to problem solve and fix it. He'll be there to guide us, but he leaves it up to us to help solve the problem.
Helps us have these opportunities of having animals.
Not only do students provide feed and water, they give shots, and a trip to the vet is an impromptu field trip.
She needs a C-section. Are you guys okay with staying out of school to watch the C-section? And we're like, heck yeah, like that sounds amazing.
Well, she's a quarter horse.
Espy's family donated this horse, and other community members have stepped up.
Like, awesome that we are able to have these animals here behind a school.
Integrating curriculum in the real world.
There's a lot of math that goes along in science.
And no kidding.
Yep, this is tiny.
Espy wants to be a vet.
We vaccinate them too and give them like medicine.
The best medicine may be a taste of the real world. As each trip to this outdoor classroom prepares them to open doors in their future. Another beautiful week out on the farm. We urge you to be safe, and we'll see you back here again next time as we see how agriculture makes Nebraska grow.
NTV's Grow is brought to you by Aurora Cooperative. Tougher together, Aurora and you.